to talk about Nikki Glaser hosting Saturday Night Live. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you've not. You can actually go to Nikki Glaser's Instagram. She has the entire monologue from Saturday Night Live on her feed. But it's not necessarily about what she said. It's something that happened that night that goes beyond just her hosting SNL. So yes, SNL, it has hosted tons of women, tons of legendary women, women who have built the show's, I think, funniest moments. But here's the part that I think people don't know. Very few of the women that have previously been on SNL were actually stand-up comics, hosting as a stand-up. So women who were, okay, this is my entire career identity, that kind of stand-up. And the list of stand-up comics, female stand-up comics, is tiny, especially compared to the male stand-ups who have hosted the show for decades. So when Nikki walked onto that stage, she wasn't just another female host, she was stepping into a very specific lane women on that show have almost never got to occupy. So the stand-up delivering that monologue, delivering her own voice, her own comedic point of view. Now, Nikki didn't just dip her toe into controversial topics, she cannonballed into them. And the internet, of course, reacted like the internet always does. Some people hated it, some people were horrified, some people loved it, some people praised her for not watering herself down. She said lines that maybe shouldn't be crossed. Some people loved, some people didn't. Everyone had an opinion. That is not the point here. Whether people loved it or hate it, the moment still mattered, because beyond the content of her jokes, you had a female stand-up comedian in a space where female stand-ups have rarely been given a seat at the table. Funny women, yes, sure, they have been on SNL, but female stand-up comedians have rarely been given a seat at that particular table. So why does this matter? Why is this relevant, may you ask? Well, because I think this is a really good example of a woman that is taking up space historically dominated by men and actually claiming the room, owning herself, owning who she is unapologetically. So this really is a story about what happens when a woman does enter into a space that was never designed for her voice and she decides to use it anyway. So for this episode, I want to invite a conversation about how we as women can navigate rooms where the rules weren't written with us in mind. I'm Dani Watson and welcome to She Leads.
Welcome to the She Leads podcast, a space that empowers women like you to build success in a way that feels authentic, energizing, and aligned with who you really are. In a world that tries to convince us that success means hustling harder and following everyone else's rules, we're here to rewrite the script. This is about success that feels nourishing, not depleting. Success that brings the fulfillment, impact, and recognition you deserve, whilst ultimately giving you the financial power to create the future you want and inspire meaningful change in the world around you. Make sure to hit the follow button so that you never miss an episode, and come and say hello on Instagram. You can find us at she_leads.academy. Let's dive in.
Hello ladies and welcome to a brand new episode. Now, before we go any further, let's just acknowledge the obvious. Nikki Glaser's monologue on Saturday Night Live didn't land well for a lot of people, and for good reason. Many of her jokes hit on topics that are deeply painful, actively relevant, very triggering for, I think, countless women. So the backlash, it wasn't, just performative outrage. It was people saying, this actually isn't funny, this is harm disguised as humor. And I'm not here to gloss over that or just pretend that that didn't matter. But I'm also not here to dissect it or justify it or moralize it. There are, yes, real survivors whose experiences deserve more than a comedy debate. But here's the distinction that I want to make clearly. I'm not referencing Nikki Glaser to celebrate every word she said. I am using her hosting moment as an example of a woman taking the mic in a historically male-dominated arena. And I think two things here can be true at once. A woman can step into a powerful space in a way that challenges gender norms, and she can also cross lines that many people find profoundly inappropriate. Now, when I talk about voice and taking up space, I'm not endorsing the content of her jokes. I'm pointing to the symbolism of the moment. A woman taking the stage in a room she historically wouldn't have been invited to lead. Now, what I really took away from Nikki's hosting was that she showed up as a woman who didn't contort herself into a more acceptable or palatable version of herself in order to fit the room. She didn't adjust her delivery. She didn't soften her edges. She didn't pretend she was lucky to be there. She arrived fully, unbothered. She let the room adjust to her. And I think this is the part of her hosting that really stood out to me, because women, most of the time, we have been taught to do the opposite. We have been raised on a steady diet of don't take up too much space, don't be too loud, don't be too confident, don't be too opinionated, don't overshadow anyone, especially men, because they bruise easily, and don't intimidate others. And if you are also a woman in a male-dominated field, you also get the bonus version, which is be grateful for the opportunity, smile more, soften your tone, make everybody else comfortable first. So meanwhile, Nikki walked onto the SNL stage like, hi, yes, I will be telling my jokes at full volume tonight. Thank you very much. And the world watched a woman do something quite radical, use her actual voice, not the polite, diluted version that we are often socialized into. So Nikki's presence said everything women are taught not to say out loud, which is, I am here, I belong, I am not shrinking to fit this space, and you can actually just adjust to me. Now, there is something fascinating, I think, and honestly, sometimes I think a little bit destabilizing too, about watching a woman refuse to contort herself. So no apologizing, no apologetic smiles, no, oh my God, I'm so awkward, no playing herself down, no, don't worry, I'm not going to take up too much airtime. She didn't do any of this. She stood there. She let herself take up space very unapologetically. And maybe that's what made everyone talk about it so much, because most women have had their own SNL moment. Maybe not on TV, but in the meeting rooms, maybe on Zoom calls, maybe pitching to clients, maybe, brainstorming sessions, or in the group chat, or maybe family tables. Spaces where the vibe is very much, yes, you can be here, but please don't disrupt the existing hierarchy. So Nikki's SNL moment, it kind of feels like permission that you don't need the room to be redesigned before you show up. You don't need the audience to applaud before you speak. You don't need everybody to feel comfortable before you take up space. And you certainly do not need to shrink yourself into a size that makes everyone else feel safe. And if we're honest, most of the time, women, I think, when we think about burnout, I don't think we're burning out because we're doing too much. Sometimes, yes. But I think often we're burning out because we're doing too much shrinking, too much managing other people's comfort levels, too much don't be too much tiptoeing around their own brilliance. And then meanwhile, Nikki's stepping out onto SNL and she's just aligning with herself. Sure, not everyone got it, not everyone applauded. Sure, there were a lot of controversial things said in her monologue, but this is her brand of comedy, and she stayed true to who she was. And I think in doing so, she reminded us of something many women forget. Sometimes the room isn't built for you, but that doesn't mean that you aren't meant to lead inside it. And I think the question that she's left kind of up in the air is, if we think of humor and visibility, how are you using your voice in spaces where you weren't always centered, or where you perhaps felt that you didn't belong? I think if she can shift the energy of Saturday Night Live for an evening, I think you can actually shift the energy of whatever room that you are about to walk into next. Now, I think the problem for a woman's voice is there's no neutral setting. So when a man shares an idea, he's often seen as confident, but when a woman shares hers, it's often overanalyzed. Is she too direct? Is she too emotional, too ambitious, too calm, too something? We often get picked apart, and you've maybe lived this as yourself. Maybe you've had an idea that was ignored until a man said the same thing and suddenly it was brilliant. I can't begin to tell you how many times when I've been working with women in the corporate space who have told this story, their ideas were shared and then they were glossed over, and then a man said exactly the same thing but just in a different way, and he was sort of praised for being the person that came up with the idea in the first place. Or maybe you gave somebody feedback and you were told you seemed too harsh. I think we've all had that moment where we've learned to read the room before we even enter it. Now, self-leadership and whether we are leading others as well. It's about presence. Presence is the energy that you carry when you walk into a room before you even say a word. It's the steadiness in your tone when you speak an idea without softening it with I just want to say this, or sorry, or, that apologetic tone. That's what true leadership looks like. Leadership of yourself and of others. It's the willingness to be fully seen even when it's uncomfortable. So in your business, that might look like pitching your idea to a potential client without over-explaining it, without justifying the price. In your career, it might mean claiming credit for your work instead of deflecting it with, this was a team effort. In your life, it might mean saying, I disagree, without kind of cushioning that. Women have been trained to shrink. Women are conditioned to be very aware of how we're perceived, aware of who we might be intimidating, aware of when it's our turn to speak. We internalize this so deeply that shrinking, it feels like the polite thing to do, the professional thing to do. So we cross our legs, we lower our voices, we choose our words very carefully so we don't come across as too much. But that kind of self-editing, it costs us our power, it's exhausting, and you cannot lead yourself or lead others whilst constantly managing how other people experience you. Now, taking up space, it doesn't mean being arrogant. It means being aligned, standing in your truth without apologizing for it. It's saying, I belong here. I belong here even if the environment was never built with someone like me in mind. Taking up space is owning your expertise or your story or your personality or your personal brand, even if nobody understands it or doesn't agree with it, or if they're not handing you permission to share it. Now, I think the truth is, women, we don't need safer rooms to be in. We need stronger self-trust. If we wait until we feel completely ready or supported or comfortable to speak, I think we'll just be waiting forever. Some rooms I don't think will ever feel safe, and that's the reality. But your power doesn't come from waiting until the room changes. It comes from becoming the reason the room changes. So when you speak up in a meeting where maybe you've always stayed quiet, you are going to then change something. Or let's say, for example, if you're a business owner, when you start charging your worth, you then change something. When you stop apologizing for your success, you change something. And you change something not just for you, but for the other people that are inspired by how you are showing up. And I think that's what really Nikki did that night when she stepped onto SNL. It wasn't just about her. It was about the statement she was making for all women, about showing up and having the courage to be your authentic self, even if it isn't necessarily going to be applauded by everybody. So I think the bigger lesson here is about claiming the mic in whatever form it shows up in your life. Sometimes it might be the literal mic. Maybe you're giving a talk or leading a meeting or posting something that you've been scared to say. Sometimes it's a metaphorical microphone. So it might be speaking your truth within your business. It might be setting a boundary. It might be making a decision that no longer requires outside approval. The point is, you do not need to wait to be invited. You don't need to wait for perfect timing, and you don't need to ask if it's okay. The mic is already in your hand. You just have to start speaking. And if you are ready to do this, if you are ready to lead yourself and maybe also lead others boldly, bravely, authentically, unapologetically, then I'd like to invite you to join us inside the She Leads Inner Circle. So the She Leads Inner Circle was designed for business women, professional women, female entrepreneurs, coaches, to really help you enter your feminine leadership era where success and wealth and impact come without the burnout. So the world has convinced us that the harder we push, the more we prove, the more we will succeed and earn. But the She Leads Inner Circle is designed to show you another way. Success has a new muse. And she knows that the days of stress and struggle and overachieving are over. She refuses to dim her ambition, but she also refuses to lose herself in the process. She is wildly driven. She knows she's here to make an impact, but she's done doing it the hard way. She is ready to rise in a way that feels softer, calmer, slower, and smarter. Now, if you are a woman with big dreams, yet you crave a soft life, then I'd love to welcome you into your feminine leadership era inside the She Leads Inner Circle. This is our membership where ambitious women succeed without sacrificing their well-being. So this is a space where you will learn how to shift from burnout-driven action to regulated, aligned decision-making that feels calm and confident. You'll replace that hustle mentality with soft, sustainable success strategies that actually grow your income and your impact in a more sustainable way. You will move from that constant overthinking to grounded self-trust, which will allow you to lead yourself and others with intuition instead of anxiety. You will also transform your relationship with ambition and success, so your big dreams feel exciting and achievable, not overwhelming. You'll also rebuild your nervous system capacity so that you can hold more wealth and visibility and responsibility without collapsing. You'll release patterns of proving and pleasing and perfectionism and step into identity-led leadership. So I invite you then to explore our She Leads Inner Circle by visiting she-leads.co/membership. All of the information can be found there. I really hope that you're able to join us, and I will see you on the inside.
If today's episode lit something up in you and you are ready to build a coaching business that not only changes lives but creates the income and freedom you deserve, then right now you can request a free trial of our She Leads Academy coach training. To get your free trial, just head over to Instagram and visit us at she_leads.academy. You will find the link to the free trial in our bio. I cannot wait to see what's possible for you.